notes for my October 2025 reading of Ragweed by Avi, illustrated by Brian Floca. Today is Tuesday, 7 October 2025, and here I, Tanis Coralee of Seattle, talk through my book and reading notes for my October 2025 reading of a book about a mouse named Ragweed and his adventuring to a big city and adjusting to urban life with other species. Ragweed by Avi, illustrated by Brian Floca, 1999 HarperTrophy edition, paperback, ISBN in the video description. I started the book on Wednesday, 1 October 2025 and finished the book on Tuesday, 7 October 2025. It was 178 pages. It took me 5 days of reading. I read 30 pages Wednesday, 50 pages Friday, 40 pages Sunday, 30 pages Monday, 28 pages Tuesday. So this mouse, he lives in a brook with his parents, and they even use the term stay-at-homers, or the parents. So he's like, all right, I'm off to explore the big city, and gets on a train and goes into the big city and finds a female mouse named Clutch, who's like, so Ragweed's a golden mouse, and Clutch has dyed the top of her head green, and she's really into music. And so she gets to meet, or he meets her family, and then there are cats in the city, and one cat lives in a house where there's a mouse named Blinker, who's a white mouse, who was like an experimental mouse, like as used for laboratory studies kind of mouse. And he escapes the house one day. And so there's this dynamic where he's navigating life with, other mice he hasn't met before, with different temperaments, because he comes from a brook, and so outside the city, and each of the mice kind of have a different living history of their own. And so he sticks around for a little bit and kind of helps this mouse pursue music, and they take over a human bookstore and turn it into a cafe / music club for mice, and meanwhile being pursued by cats. And the cat that lived with the white mouse, there was a human that was like, go get the mouse. And so there's the dynamic there of like taking on the cats and stuff like that. And in the end, Ragweed does get on a train again and go off to the forest. It was reading this growing up, I realized I was okay with not being a Leonhardi. If people equated that with me being a cat, I'd rather be a rodent / have rodents. So I had pet rodents growing up, and I look after the squirrels and rodents and stuff. And this is one of those books that I was like, in ruminating about surnames, I was kind of like, but I like the tinies. I like the rodents. And Leonhardi is not a house cat. In terms of which of the squirrels is my Ragweed, it's going to be Pumice, she, her, hers of Seattle, is my Ragweed, and she's still out there. Same as Scar, Baby, and Blotchy, and the others. Western gray squirrels of Duwamish ancestral origins, like me. Though I'm a mixed European Native American, and the Western gray squirrels of Duwamish ancestral origins are pure Duwamish. I've got some, but not entirely. The book is, I like the font size. I love the style. So it has, like, it's illustrated by, and the illustrations are so well done. It matches and helps carry the text of the book. And it does a good job of, like, I'm reading and they're talking about the mice taking over this, what used to be a human bookstore. And then I'm like thinking later in the book, I'm like, this was the one they took over from the humans. And then there's a drawing, an illustration that, highlights, how it's like there's a bunch of mice listening to music kind of thing. And it showcases, the bookstore belonged to humans because it has human-sized books and human-sized counters and that kind of stuff. So I was like, but he doesn't, the author doesn't have to specify it was a human bookstore again. They can just bring in a visual that is like a reminder of the physicality, like reminds the reader, me, of the physicality of the space. So in that sense, this is, I've read this before. This is my own personal copy. It's still with me. It's with me. Wow. Even if it was a non-linear path to being with me right now from when I purchased it and read it for myself way back when. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's one that might be more than 5 out of 5 stars, but 5 out of 5 stars. And it does a really great job on the physicality. I think it's a great one for understanding like how like useful illustrations actually can be in communicating stuff and just like basic like history of a place, and like when there's like the differential between a bunch of mice in a bookshop and like what the humans put in for furnishings. It becomes a little bit, yeah, that's right. That shouldn't be confusing a 3-ounce critter with a 150-pound human kind of thing. So there we go. Notes for my October 2025 reading of Ragweed by Abby, illustrated by Brian Floca.